Coach Francis, two positive tests coming out yesterday. Sherone, Simpson, and Asafa, Powell. Big blows to the MVP track club and Jamaica. What's your reaction?
Well, I guess I should say I'm disappointed, but most of my disappointment occurred some time ago, and I'm not really that surprised. So I think my reaction is twofold. Somewhat disappointed for the people involved, but not really surprised that this happened.
But how can you not be surprised that this happened?
Well, because of the history of what I mean, in my opinion, when you behave certain ways, something's about to happen to you. Maybe not specifically a positive drug test, but certainly nothing good. And, I need to be clear that this has nothing to do really with MVP. It has nothing to do with MVP staff. It has nothing to do with MVP other athletes. It is an incident which is certainly between the athletes themselves who were involved, between the person who they trusted and between the agent. Those are the four people who are involved in this thing. Nobody else.
But of course, people will be saying that the MVP track club generally, nothing happens unless Stephen Francis sanctions it. How did this Canadian trainer get involved with Asafa Powell and Sherone Simpson and indeed the MVP club?
No, he's not involved with the MVP club. Let me get that straight. He has absolutely nothing to do with the MVP track club. We don't even know. I mean, it was maybe 3 days ago that I knew the name of this person. Right? I have never spoken to him. Right? I know nothing about this guy. He is somebody who was planted on Asafa by Powell. Right? And Asafa is 30 years old. He has the right to use whatever he wants to use to look after himself. Right? That's all. I mean, we know nothing about this guy. And what we do know, that after the news broke out, I found out the extent to which Asafa was circumventing the rules of the club.
Circumventing the rules in what manner?
It is a standard every athlete who is in our club knows, that you take absolutely nothing in your mouth apart from food unless I approve it. That's standard. And the amount of things that these people were taking, presumably from this guy, obviously about the rules. If I go back a step, and it is, I had a conversation with Paul Doyle when I was in Doha. That was the second week in May. And he told me that he is looking for a trainer who the athletes can turn to when they have pressing issues. I said to him, I was looking for the same kind of person. But the problem is that anybody who you're going to find with the time is probably not very good. And those who are very good, too busy. Dyer told me that, he had this guy. I said, yes, which guy is this? He said, this guy from Canada. He trained this guy, this other gentleman named Carm. I said, hold on there, Dyer. Hold on. I do not want to have anything to do with those people from Canada. Right? I don't want to have anything with them. They have a very bad reputation. Plus, this guy who is his boss, so to speak, is a quack, in my opinion. Right? I said, do you understand? He said, yes. By the Monday, I returned to practice. There was this guy there, standing there. Right? And I said, but I thought I told Dyer that I wasn't interested in this guy. And that is how this guy came here. He was always on the fringes of the training sessions working, as far as I know, exclusively with Asafa. Right? I am subsequently told that it extended to Sherone and then to Sherika, who were the members of the other remaining members of MVP still with Powell. So that is essentially how this guy came into the situation with Asafa. He has never been. We don't know anything. I knew his last name for the first time yesterday when I tried to Google his reputation, and now I'm finding out that this guy is a renowned person in the sport, on the darker side of the sport. Right? That's what people are saying. I don't know if it's true. Right? But I do know that I expressly told, I do not want anybody from Canada or from this guy, Cobb, to come to my club. But as usual, in a number of things, Paul Doyle went and did what Asafa wanted him to do. And it has led directly to this. After 3 years of behaving in this way, it has come to this.
You indicated earlier that Asafa has been behaving in a particular way in the last 3 years, and then this man from Canada coming in. What are some of the?
He's saying no. Eh?
So Asafa and Sherone, they have acknowledged that this thing was found in them. Have you spoken to them? What has been their reaction to you?
I have spoken to them. I have not reminded them really that this is their fault, that this is how their behavior has culminated. What I'm trying to do is to help them to see what substance it is that they could have taken. And so this is a separate issue though, in that it isn't immediately apparent that they have ingested anything which has a substance, at least on the label. You know, they brought to me everything which they were taking, and I went through it, and none of the stuff which this guy gave to them, they say, especially to Sherone. She had about 6 bottles of stuff, which she showed me, and none of those things contained in any way this auxiliary thing. Right? I don't know if she hasn't told me everything that she took. But what I can say is the substance or the product which is at suspicion here does not contain on this label that they have anything which is methylphenidate or auxiliary. So I have assisted them to do that. So I think the next thing they're going to do, well, no, I shouldn't say that because they don't really do what I say. Right? But the next thing I recommended to them is to do a gas chromatography of the product to see if it contains something in there which is not on the label. But I don't know what they're going to do because they only listen to Paul Doyle.
Of course, the naysayers would say, Frana is always one who makes a lot of noise, and he must have known what is happening. See, he got Shelley. Hold on.
What was happening? Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that what the naysayers would say. Shelley and Fraser had a problem.
I don't answer naysayers. Excuse me. I don't answer naysayers. You're going to ask my question. I don't care what people who have very little time to analyze what they're saying say.
Okay, so Shelley returned a positive for oxycodone, which was given to her.
Related to this, what's the issue?
Exactly. So I'm just saying that the naysayers would be saying this is now the third athlete.
No. Hold on. There is no logical relationship between oxycodone, a painkiller, and this. You happen to follow. It sounds to me as if you are behaving like a naysayers. You have done little research into what the substance is. It is, I don't see how the two of them are relevant.
The logical connection which people will be making is that not between the two substances. One treats low blood pressure and one is a painkiller which is not a performance enhancer. That is clear. The question is, this is now the third athlete who trains with the MVP club who would have contravened anti-doping rules. I'm saying, how do you respond to that?
That is a statement. I can't respond to a statement.
No, so I'm saying the fact that
What they ask me?
I'm saying the fact that three.
I'm concerned about the fact that.
Correct. Are you concerned that now two more bringing to three athletes would have contravened anti-doping rules training with you?
MVP is not a high school track team. There are a large amount of people there. Most of them are well over 25. They consider themselves big men and women, and they do, in a lot of ways, what they feel like doing. It is not a prison camp. It is not a reform school. We do not have set hours per day for people to come out of their cells, to go to the dining room, go to the prison yard. So there is no way that a track club or a coach can be asked to explain the actions of people who are larger on their own and I've just told you that these people in particular have been for a little while rebelling to prove that they're adults and that they don't need to do what I say.
Okay, so on a broader scale, we've seen in recent times, of course, Veronica Campbell-Brown, not associated with MVP, Shelley, Asafa, Sherone, some of Jamaica's top athletes running into problems with doping. How do you think this will affect Jamaica's program going forward, especially with people like Dick Pound saying that Jamaica has always had a doping problem?
So my opinion on this issue, I've already spoken publicly about it. Excuse me. This is another case of a substance which has absolutely nothing to do with cheating, right? Has absolutely nothing to do with cheating, right? I am a sprint coach with a lot of experience, and I would like somebody to tell me exactly how a substance like oxylofrene, which gets you jittery, which accelerates the heart rate, which gets you dizzy, how that can help sprinting, which requires calmness, which requires concentration, how that can help and not harm sprinters. And this is a case, again, where I've said that WADA and the drug testing agencies have no clue how to catch the cheats. They have little or no idea. Their method is ineffective, incompetent. So they have built up these things, these little things, to catch people, to show that they are doing something. And they are doing nothing because these things, you can pack up people with these things all day long, and it does not make any of them faster. These are irrelevant to cheating. But there are new steroids out there, I found out yesterday. There are 2 new steroids out there which they cannot catch. People are taking them, right? But they focus their attention. I have heard, for example, that this particular product which they caught Asafa and Sherone with was just reintroduced to the drug list. Pseudoephedrine, cold medicine, just reintroduced. What can be the purpose other than to catch people, to let the public know that water is not wasting their hard to earn money? That all these tests, nobody's getting caught for testosterone, for masking agents, for steroids, that kind of stuff. That stuff which is helpful to a sprinter, right? And I do not believe that everything on the drug list for a sport should be shown that this helps your performance. If it does not help your performance, why is it there? And I believe that I can be wrong. So somebody can come and show me where they have made a study, a double-blind study, which shows that people who are on this run faster.
And the other thing,
I cannot see how it can happen.
Take on. The other thing is now Tyson Gay as well. He has returned a positive. We have not heard what his substance is. Your reaction to that? This is, of course, the top American sprinter.
I can't react unless I know what the substance is. People do not understand that there are several things, most of them irrelevant to cheating, which you can get caught with. And the media does not educate the public about that. There are nearly 1,000 things on the drug testing list. Over 1,000. You can get caught with anything. Soon they will reintroduce caffeine. At one point, if you drank 5 cups of coffee, You could have gotten caught. And they stopped it, just like they did the pseudo everything. But soon they'll bring it back. Because the more people that get caught, is the better it looks for them. As if I heard that Nick Davis said something about that shows how tough they are. Tough for what? These people the cheats are still there. The cheats are taking these 2 new steroids, which WADA and all of them are unable to find. But they are focusing on people who take low blood pressure things, people who take painkillers, people who smoke ganja, people who whatever it is. And as far as I'm concerned, those are just red herrings because the sport is full of cheats, right? Who have used ways. People who are getting into the labs. The labs are not safe. There are people there who can turn over tests at the lab by paying off the lab people. That is what they should be focusing on. EPO, those kind of stuff. Which, if you take it, can make it better. The media is not investigating all that kind of stuff. They are just accepting what they say, and I'm saying that most of the stuff they have caught the Jamaicans with are totally irrelevant to performance.
These allegations are quite stinging. What are these 2 new steroids that you're saying you're hearing of?
The lab that has analyzed them said that they have no name because they are new. They have all the chemical the chemical structure of a steroid, but there are some differences, and they probably would act like steroids, but they are new. So that is how we know that there are new steroids out there. And so you're going to find that people all of a sudden going to be using these things until 2 years later when WADA and company catch up, and they will belatedly bring these things onto the list.
Others have complained that the list is too exhaustive and not very clear, and people can run into problems. You have alluded to over 1,000 things on it. What can be done from your perspective to make the list clearer so athletes don't run amok of the rules?
A little common sense can. I mean, Asafa took this thing which they have accused of being taking is an in-competition drug. In other words, if they had tested them 1 hour before competition, it would have been okay. So they are calling this an in-competition drug. That the only time they test for this is in competition, which therefore you can infer from that they are saying that this helps competition. And when you look, you realize that Asafa ran 10-10-2. So you are going to bring down somebody over something he took and ran 10-2. To me, that is part of the problem with this WADA. I believe that WADA has made the sports more unfair. Right? When the IAF and so on were at the head of the drug testing, they used to catch up to these things a lot sooner. Right? They caught up to things like these steroids a lot sooner. It is taking WADA 3, 4, 5 years to catch up to a steroid. So I call that nothing short of incompetence. Ineffectiveness. You're busting sprinters for stimulants which harm them rather than hurt them. Stimulants don't help sprinters. Find out those things which help them and ban them, and make sure that you have a system of finding these things. Right? So yes, this thing apparently was in their bodies. Yes, but I am not seeing how this thing can be labeled cheating. But once you test positive, everybody starts to say you're cheating. And that is my problem. I don't mind the media coming and say, yes, they have broken the rules. But try and find out if these things help people cheat.
By the way, has Asafa and Sherone asked for the B sample to be tested?
No, as I said to you, Kayon, this is strictly between them, their agent, and the guy who they have. We have nothing whatsoever to do with this. So I will help them as persons when I can. I will go to bat for them saying that they didn't cheat. Right, but the whole procedure is being handled by them. I mean, they don't listen to what I say. Right, now they have everybody talking about police raiding MVP camp. Police did not raid our camp. The police went directly at the behest of Paul Doyle, went directly to the room of Asafa, Sherone, and the trainer. They took a lot of stuff from the trainer's room. How does that translate to police raiding MVP camp? We live at a hotel. The hotel has 70, 80, 90 rooms. And I'm hearing that everybody's in Jamaica saying that how police took 50 drugs from our camp. Everything they took came from the man who was employed by Paul Doyle and Asafa Powell. That, as far as I know of. He did not raid MVP camp. He is not associated with MVP. We don't know anything. We just barely know his last name. We don't know anything about him. As far as we know, he is there to look after Asafa. And he doesn't interfere with our trading. He stands on the outskirts. And in my eyes at least, he deals with Asafa. I have not seen him working with anybody else. So that is what I'm cut up about, right? This has nothing to do with us. And we're not disowning Asafa. All we're saying is that this is his personal employee. He was not recommended by us. We don't know anything about him. Right? This is personal. Right? So please try and make sure you understand that. Right? It has nothing to do. He's not an MVP employee. He's not an MVP staff. I have never spoken more than hello to him. And he had to say hello first. Right? I don't know anything about this guy. Right? He was brought here, presumably by Paul Doyle, and at the behest of Asafa. I told them not to bring him here. Asafa had promised me in the past. Before I took him back to train this year, I said to him, we have to get rid of those people you have bringing in to deal with your freezer thing. They're not working. The more you bring them in, the more hurt you get. He said, yes, coach, I understand. I said, we're going to try the way that we used to do it back in 2009. He said, yes, coach. Then all of a sudden, I said, this guy showed up, who I hear has an arrest record. A guy who is everybody sees him, knows, says, MVP's on drugs. And this is the man that Paul Doyle brought to deal with Asafa. That is where your focus, in my opinion, should be.
The way the reasoning is going, it seems as though you'll be cutting ties with Paul Doyle?
Well, we have already, essentially, I mean, he has done things over the last 3 years, encouraging Jake Harvey to leave by finding a coach, bringing in these people for Asafa, right? Sending Asafa to meet, which I expressly told him that I don't want him to run, right? Every meet Asafa has run so far, I have not been there. The only people there is him and this guy. And that in itself is a good thing because people are feeling me with this guy. And everybody out there apparently in the track world knows this guy. That is the kind of behavior which has, and I have told Asafa. And I'm hoping that the rest of these athletes in Jamaica can use this as a lesson. Right? I told Asafa over and over, do not trust people who are not around you on your way up. All those people who you acquire, once you hit the top, get rid of them. Do not trust them. If you're going to sink with those who are around you at the start. But he will never understand that lesson until it caught up to him. So I am asking all those, whether you're from MVP or otherwise, learn from this. Learn from this. When you are beware of how you disrespect those people who were around you when you were nothing. Because the people who come afterwards have no good intentions. They're just out to get what they can get. And as long as you understand that, great.
Thanks very much, Coach Francis. Really appreciate it.
Okay.